The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame. Welcome back to The Short Game. This is a show about short video games, games that respect your time. I'm Raygan Kelly, and I'm joined this week by two very cool co-hosts.
Laura Nash.
Nate Heininger.
And this is a bit of a cheat week for us. Well, for a whole variety of reasons, we just didn't quite get it together to play a short game this week. But we didn't want to leave you with nothing this week, dear listener. We thought we are probably going to hop on a call and chit-chat about the other things that have been going on with us, gaming and some not gaming related, over the last little while. And why not record that and release it to you, the listener, as content?
Yeah, you know, we talk about this show and sort of the purpose behind it and how you fit games into your life, and just sometimes we cannot fit games into our life. So this podcast is true. It's from our hearts. This is one of those weeks, you know, we do the classic thing pretty regularly where we release an old episode, but I like this too. We'll just hop on and talk about some other non-game specific things.
Yeah. And so we thought we'd start by sort of talking, and we'll see where this goes, about games that we have been playing that don't necessarily fit the short game format. So, you know, things that we might have played recently that we want to talk about a little bit, but that either aren't short or that we weren't able to do, and, you know, have enough people get together and do a kind of a book club style about. I don't know. Does anybody want to start?
Sure. I'll jump in.
Go.
So I intend to. So I played. I haven't, you know, had time to play a lot of games outside of the games for the show recently. Again, hence part of why we're doing this. But a few months ago, I played entirely through a game that I thought would maybe work for the show. Ended up being too long and not one that I could like kind of, you know, we could do our sort of wink into it's good for the show. It's like, no, this game was just long or longer. I played it right when I went on paternity leave, right before I started playing Hollow Knight, which I've talked about, you know, endlessly on this show since since I played through Hollow Knight. But anyway, played a game called SteamWorld Quest. Have any of you ever played any of the SteamWorld games?
Yeah,
No,
so I played SteamWorld Dig, the first one, on, I think it was on the 3DS. That's ported to basically everything. It was pretty fun. I didn't see that game as being something that was going to like start a new. And I don't think it actually started. There was a game before SteamWorld Dig, but like it doesn't really seem like the kind of world that like features a lot of world building and connected lore that would like support a series that includes, I think, like 5 games or something like that.
Is it steampunk or? I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, it's like wacky cartoon steampunk. Like there's, in the game I played, at least, there is a giant like robot frog, you know, but it's very, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think it's got like a premise of it's like a far future steampunk world where all the humans are dead and there are just these like steam powered rickety claptrap robots all over the place. Living,
yeah, there's a lot of
human like lives.
There are, I don't know if they were humans or not, but there were other life forms in this game. So yeah, I had never played any SteamWorld game. I'd seen the name. I didn't really know much about them, but it actually came up in our Discord, and somebody recommended to me specifically SteamWorld Quest, pitched as a combination of a sort of JRPG style game with deck building. From like, all right,
you're in.
Yeah, I'm in. You got me. And also that it's not normal JRPG length, which is a huge barrier to me for JRPGs. I love the combat mechanics of JRPGs. I just never play them because they all take way too long, and I'm just not going to commit that amount of time. One of my favorite games ever is Chrono Trigger, and that game is short for those style of games, but still, 20 to 30 hours. Anyway, this game fits somewhere in that same sort of time, that time to completion. And the way it works is you have your party. You have three characters that you are going to enter into a combat with. They're on a little grid, and you're going to fight, 1 to 5 other enemies. But instead of having your standard combat style where you have every person gets to go one time, or you have a set number of actions or something like that, you are dealt a number of cards that represent actions that you can take, and you have so many moves you can do per turn. So you might be dealt a hand of 2 punches from your knight character, a healing spell from your healer character, a fireball from your mage character, and a area effect for your mage character. But you can only play maybe 3 of those cards this turn. You pick which 3 do you want. Do you want to just do the all the melee attacks? You want to do a heal and a spell or whatever? All you have in front of you is whatever cards you were dealt. And that is sort of the challenge of the game, is you're building this deck. Each character has its own set of cards that come into that they bring with them, and you pick what cards you want to be a part of your deck, and you enter in combat, and you kind of hope that you get the right cards in the right order. Classic deck building stuff. It was a really fun mechanic. I really enjoyed it. They do a lot of things to give you variety with it too. There's a whole crafting system that lets you choose what cards you're going to make and how you kind of want to gear your characters. And there's 5 or 6 different characters that you can swap in and out of your party. So there's a huge range of abilities and cards and things like that. So it really scratched the itch of, if you hear JRPG that uses deck building mechanics, it does that, and it does it really, really well.
I guess my question about it though, so I've definitely, I play more JRPGs than most of the folks on this show. I don't always finish them. I'm more sort of an aspirational JRPG player, and I tend to pick up 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of them a year, and I usually only finish 1 a year. And I tend to be drawn to JRPGs mostly for story and sort of other sort of superficial or flashy reasons. I like the Persona games and things like that, because they've got good characters and so on. And JRPGs tend to do the sorts of stories that I'm sometimes I'm drawn to those stories for my sins. The reason that I didn't play that game, because I remember the conversation in the Discord about it, and I was intrigued, and the mechanics you were just talking about sound extremely up my alley, but I was a little hesitant to get into an RPG set in this world where I want to know, did the story of this game rise to the occasion for you? Because it seems like a kind of a goofy, I was how can it tell a story I'll care about with characters that are rusty cartoon machines?
Yeah. My answer to that, Raygan, is big no.
Oh no.
It was so the game has its opportunities, and one of them is, and it's a big one, is that I honestly can't really even tell you much about the story. It was a lot of, it's something like your town has been destroyed and you have to go and save. I played it 5
Sounds like you loved it.
It's a lot of Mario, oh, the princess isn't here. You're you battle through an entire place and you get to the end and they're oh, I'm glad we made it here. Now we have to get to the next, spot. There's a lot of travel. The characters were funny and fun, and there was some interesting things that individual characters went through and some subverting of norms. But for the most part, I think the fact that I can't really remember what the driving action of the story is probably pretty telling. So that was a big opportunity on it. I never felt I don't think I ever once felt in the game like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed the combat mechanic enough that I was like, I want to play to keep playing the game of it, the mechanics of it.
The arc of the combat, like the way the combat was progressing and moving forward was enough plot for you.
That was fun. Yeah. That said, the other opportunity with this game is that there was nothing that truly compelled you to try out any of the other characters or even more difficult card combinations than your own desire to do so. I had played really far into this game with the starting 3 characters, and I never really felt like I needed to. The game is never so challenging or like spec'd in a way where you're like, oh, I need to use this other character in order to beat this boss, You're
not going to the rock gym where you can't bring
right. And so that was it. I eventually, because I thought the system was so cool, I did start mixing up and trying to level up and build cards for different things. There's a whole item system too, that was cool and worked. There was just nothing mechanically that made me feel like I had to do that stuff. And when you are in a game like this, where you are, it's JRPGs thing, you're leveling up characters, you're speccing, you're min-maxing. If I don't have to go away from my supercharged party that I've created, it's gonna be hard to actually do so.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the game. I think I would recommend it if you're looking for a cool combat mechanism. There's some really interesting stuff with how they handle the cards and combos, and a lot of things that kept me going. And I'm usually pretty quick to this game isn't for me and I'll just stop playing it. And I beat it, which is one of the longer games I've beat in the last 3 years. So now that might have been also because I was just starting paternity leave and I was staying up till 3 a.m. every night with a new baby. But even still,
that helps.
I had the time for it, but I would have easily put it down if there was, I enjoyed Hollow Knight way more, which I played next, but I still beat it. So I don't know. It's not a heavy recommend, but I wanted to talk about it on this show because it is one of the longer games I've actually played end to end in a long time with that length. And I think some people may like it. It's probably geared towards me. And so me saying yeah, it was fine. I think probably a lot of people wouldn't really enjoy it, but the mechanic sounds cool. Check it out.
I really wish that some of the more mainstream big Japanese JRPG developers would take another look at the kinds of combat mechanics that are Japan has, they love Dragon Quest and they just want to do Dragon Quest again. Right. And they've been doing Dragon Quest again, with 100 games a year for decades now. And I would really love to see more good ass JRPGs with more experimental battle systems. And I think maybe you're starting to see that. You look at something like the remake of Final Fantasy VII, and they completely ditched their old battle system in favor of a more sort of real-time action combat system. And that sounds I didn't actually play that because I don't have a lot of nostalgia for that game. I never really played Final Fantasy VII. But the idea that we're going to try a new battle system in a game that is still fundamentally a traditional JRPG, very exciting to me. So I hope we see more of that. I would love to play more games like that. They're just, give me enough mechanics to carry me through that, extremely long experience, rather than just, choose the 5 different combat attack. Choose your most powerful attack again. Hit attack again.
Well,
hit them as hard as you can hit them and move on.
That's what I liked about this game, and it's why deck building is such a obvious fit for this, or now after this game it feels obvious, and also why you're seeing deck building just filter into every single game type that there is right now, is because it adds that controlled randomness to to whatever game you want. So in a JRPG where you're normally like, yeah, I know that this guy, has the most powerful punch.
Mm-hmm.
This, person has a group heal that does X amount, and it's all about me just doing them in the right order, and they're always available to me. This is like, well, what if you don't know what moves are going to be available to you till that turn? You don't have the ability to plan 2 or 3 rounds in a row like you might normally with a JRPG. You just don't know what's going to happen. So it's way more sticking with that round, sticking with the moment, and just trying to set yourself up for success by building the right deck, and then just hoping that the right cards happen when you need them. And I like that. It adds. I think I really enjoy JRPGs, but they can get really stale, especially once you've min-maxed so hard that you're like, it is not good. It is not effective for me to do anything other than this sequence of attacks.
Yeah.
For like 99% of fights. Every once in a while there'll be a boss or whatever that has like a resistance that you're like, oh no, now I need to do cold wave instead of fire wave or whatever, and I really like it. So I'm hopeful.
That's why so many of the big JRPGs, like the big innovation of the last decade was auto battling. And it's like, it's good, but like, the next step would be, why were we auto battling? Why was our solution to our game design problem to remove the game design?
Yeah.
Or the gameplay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not to grouse, but you get the idea. Like I would love to see more of that. I hope the next Persona has like a completely random ass battle system that that's actually
it'll be controversial.
That would be actually that's the one case where like I really do still enjoy their battle system, but it depends.
Well, if you want to try out a unique battle system in a game like this, go check out SteamWorld Quest. If you end up not liking it, well, you also had you had plenty of warning.
Well, my gaming time that hasn't been short gaming time lately has mostly been like I have a confession to make on this podcast. I have a dark secret, and it's that like I had been playing Cyberpunk 2077.
Gasp!
I know. Well, okay. So the reason that I consider this a bit of a like I'm giving up a bit here, and that's that like first of all, okay, backstory. I loved The Witcher 3, and I really enjoyed The Witcher 2. I played it like back in 2013 or so, when like it had been out for a little while, but it was like it had a reputation as being this like not super well known but extremely good PC game at the time. That was I think it wasn't even like I don't even remember if it was out on the Xbox at the time, but like it was like this well-regarded Polish, slightly esoteric game that people were like, this is actually really good. You should check it out. And I got it for cheap on Steam, and I absolutely loved it. And then, I pre-ordered Witcher 3 like day one. I jumped into it. I played it every day for a year. I did everything. I didn't fast travel. I did the whole thing where like I set like a goal for myself where like every time I was going to travel across the map, I did it on horseback. And every time an item or, an object popped up on my map, I sidetracked to do it. I did every single side quest in that game. I basically 100%ed it. I adored it. And so, of course, I was very excited to play a new game by CD Projekt Red, despite the fact that the story leading up to Cyberpunk 2077 was really off-putting. There's pretty much nothing that like gets my like that gets me mad more than transphobia. For whatever reason, there's lots of ills in the world. But like that one in particular just really feels like shitty, spiteful, hurting people who are, I don't even need to go into it. Just like transphobia sucks. And the marketing for Cyberpunk 2077 saw some really questionable decisions about some like basically jokes, I think. about trans people that were like pretty upfront in the marketing. And when called on it, CD Projekt Red at every level doubled down and said, like, not a big deal. You know, we're actually fine here. Everything's good. You know, no, we're not going to change or remove anything from our game because that would be censorship. And so that was very off-putting to me. And then there were a lot of other situations around the game that made me also very uncomfortable. So like the stories about their work culture and crunch and essentially like really not treating their employees well, and a bunch of other things about the game that just like put me off. And then of course it launched with this massive story about essentially them like lying to or hiding details about their game's, you know, progress from the media, and kind of, you know, and everyone else knows about the like bizarre situations around the launch of the game. So I was in a weird position where like, I have to play this game. Even with all of this stuff, The Witcher 3 was a game that I adored more than almost any other game I can think of. And even with its faults, I thought to myself, if Cyberpunk 2077 has some of that magic, I need to play it. And I also had, you know, I'd been making plans around the game. I bought a brand new gaming PC that I was excited to play it on. So where I came down to on it was, I'm going to play the game, but I'm not going to talk about it on the podcast or tweet about it because I kind of felt like that would be giving it oxygen, right? Not only would that be like potentially not that I'm like a big, like I'm not a tastemaker or anything, but like I did sort of feel that like that, you know, talking about it in breathless tones, whether it was good or bad on the podcast or tweeting about it would be in some way like giving oxygen to the thing in a way that I didn't feel comfortable doing. So I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 in secret, you know, and in shameful secret. Right. And at first I was really liking the game, and the more I've played it, I don't think like complaints about Cyberpunk 2077 are going to hit anybody with a great deal of surprise. But like the arc of me playing this game has been one of mostly slowly downhill, right? And it's there's a few things about it. Like I coming at it from somebody who really, really loved The Witcher 3. It has a couple things that it does really well that, or at least, you know, it does not almost as well as The Witcher 3. The Witcher 3 is really, really good, but you can see the design decisions coming together. Like they really clearly wanted to put serious writing thought into most of the side quests. And that's really the thing that elevated The Witcher 3. But like, other than that, and also, okay, good, very, very good, honestly, voice acting performances, pretty decent writing throughout. But you know what it just doesn't manage to do is like be a cyberpunk story. I'm not a huge cyberpunk fan, but like when you think back on like what is a good piece of cyberpunk media, right? Like there's like two parts to it. Like as far as I'm concerned, there's like the aesthetic of cyberpunk, which is mostly about this like retrofuturism from the 80s, people pulling like wires out of their head and sticking them into large boxes with like modem attachments on them, and you know, committing cyber crimes from their assault rated vans and, you know, flying cars and
cyberpunk
giant,
going to a club where like everyone has crazy hair.
Everyone's
hair is
going to a rave.
Really
correction.
Yeah, and everyone is super confident in themselves.
And this game manages to do the aesthetic okay, but like the thing about that aesthetic is like that aesthetic works in film, but like when you really immerse in it, it just starts to feel really mundane. Like the thing that makes cyberpunk as an aesthetic work is like an assault on the senses, right? Like, you know, you watch Blade Runner and it's like constantly assaulting your senses with bright lights, with like constant novelty. You know, every frame of that film has some new thing that you've never seen before. And every bit of it makes you think like, I want to know how that fits into this world. But when you have to live in that world for 60 hours or something like that, it loses all of that mystery. I know exactly what that thing is. It's a tourist terminal. What does it do? Fast travel. Like, I know exactly what these things are, right? It loses all of that mystery. And it also can't constantly assault your senses the way that like a film can, because it's an immersive, it's basically a first person GTA clone is the way this game plays. So like it doesn't have those sort of film tricks. So the aesthetic of it worked a little bit at first, but that really, really tapered off. And then the other side, of course, is like, how does a cyberpunk story work? You have to have like a central science fiction-y conceit that is about what is a cyberpunk story kind of varies, because like we're talking about everything that could have come out from like the 80s through the present, but it's this thing as a story, like its sort of main story thread kind of worked for me, but it's mostly just this story of, and I'm not spoiling anything here that isn't pretty clear from marketing or the first few hours of the game. The story is mostly about getting a chip in your head that contains a sort of a personality imprint from a famous dead terrorist / rock and roller from a sort of previous era of this cyberpunk world. And he has one sort of vision of like what this world should be, being about like fighting the corporations, right? And you have this much more sort of like, I just live here and try to get by kind of feel. But it's kind of a story about like, you're trying very hard to figure out how to get this chip out of your head before it kills you. That's an okay lead in for a story, but it really doesn't stir me in a way that like good science fiction stories do. It's mostly just a story that it's there to, in a very GTA kind of way, string you from one job to the next. You're going to find a new, fixer or client who wants something from you before they're willing to give you the piece of information that leads you on to the next clue about how to get this chip out of your head. And The Witcher, I assume there was like that structure was sort of there in The Witcher, but it didn't feel like it. The Witcher felt like an epic grand fantasy story, full of these incredibly vibrant characters. And this it doesn't feel even like the thing that I think it's trying to be.
Yeah. I shared with you my rant about cyberpunk as a genre?
No, I don't think you have. Please do.
I think that cyberpunk is based on a out-of-date version of technology. And although many of the concepts have come true, I believe that like the way that we all accept privacy policies blindly, and the way the way ethics in AI and ethics in search and all that kind of stuff is eroded is not the future people thought. Like people thought the corporations have to take our privacy away, and we just give it away. So I think a lot of the stuff in cyberpunk ends up being neon and 1980s rather than actually futuristic. So I think that cyberpunk is as dated as like Jetsons.
100%.
And the problem is everyone who creates in this genre thinks they're being futuristic. And no one thinks, like, they all think they're like doing a timely story. And that is my rant about cyberpunk, is like, you are not being timely because none of the stuff you're doing is actually the problems that we're going to have in 20 years.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm like. That when I said I don't think it's good science fiction, that's basically what I'm getting at. Is like good science fiction is like there to to shed a light on aspects of the present, right? I will give them some credit in that, like, I think they understood that problem that you're talking about, Laura, in that this game is set in an alternate timeline that diverges in the 80s. And the actual year, I think it is 2077, but like it's not like
It'd be pretty weird if it was not 2077.
right? Yeah, but like it doesn't feel like
Actually
like a far
set in
future of our
2075.
A real baller move if it wasn't.
Yeah, it feels more like because like it's based on a series of like rule book, like a source books for like a tabletop role playing game that was like Cyberpunk 2020 or something like that, like and the guy who's in your head who's been long dead, he's from an era that's like more close to us than 2077 in terms of years, but he's basically like in a timeline that diverged in the 80s, and there's a Soviet Union, for example. So it does have that sort of like, they know that the future that you imagine when you think cyberpunk can't be our future anymore because of the there's like total reliance on things like computers being kind of large actually, and touchscreens, for example, aren't really a thing, and we have brain computer interfaces, but it still has this sort of like,
but they're still mice
cruft to it, right? But it's well, anyway, I wanted to talk about that a little bit, and also say that like I found myself really still wanting a big open world, big budget thing, genre thing. And I realized, like, I think the only thing that I could really go to was I decided to give Red Dead Redemption 2 a try, which obviously I've got this, exciting beefy gaming PC, and I'm going back and playing a game that's like already years old now, and I could have played on my PS4 just as well. But it's actually scratching the itch that I had, that I thought, what I thought I wanted, much better than Cyberpunk has been. And because it is a weird game. It's got the sort of GTA like it wants to layer on a lot of like mostly useless systems. There's like a horse husbandry system with like, you can feed your horse, you can brush your horse, you can buy and sell and trade horses. You have to manage your horse's health and stamina separately, and all of these things. And there's a crafting system. There's a system for managing your gang. There's a system for managing your hair and mustache. There's a system for, hunting and cooking various different types of animals. And it's all of this stuff that if you really want to just totally sink into this world, like if you wanted to RP a mountain man who never speaks to anyone, you'd still have plenty of things to do out in the wilderness if you wanted to. But like, that's not exactly what I was going to this game for. I really just sort of wanted to be immersed in a very genre heavy story with like at least semi decent writing and lots of little quests to do. And this checks that box incredibly well. It's no Witcher 3, but like, I guess maybe I'm just also much more interested in fantasy and Western stories than I am in cyberpunk stories. So I don't know. That's where I'm at right now with the long games. I'm dipping into Red Dead 2 every now and then to do some bounty hunting or ride my horse endlessly from one place to another.
I've never played that game, but Molly has not completed it, but I've watched her play it a lot, and it is a very pretty and fun game to watch too. So,
Raygan streamed some the other night, and I watched his horse's butt walk quite a long way, and it was very pretty.
Yeah, it's amazing how committed the game is to making you ride long distances through the wilderness. Like, you don't unlock the fast travel stuff for quite a while, and even then, it seems kind of involved. The game is really designed for you to spend a long time riding your horse, doing not much else other than managing your horse. And I kind of like that.
The GTA games are often pretty similar. They're like, this whole game is getting in cars and driving them.
Your car.
So go get in a car and drive it to where you want to go.
The thing that I was most concerned about was like, I tried with GTA 5. I liked the GTA games back in the PS2 era, but like, and even GTA 4, but I tried with GTA 5, and just like the level of its humor, like, was an immediate turnoff for me. And like I find very much grown out of GTA as, you know, in terms of its like its whole vibe, you know. I'm just super over it. And I was really worried that Red Dead would have like that, but with a funky hat on. But it's not really. Like I'm sure that there's still stuff in there that is that kind of humor, but it isn't as in my face as it is with GTA, where you're constantly like seeing ads on billboards and on the radio for things like, I don't know, dick butts. It's
nice improv. I haven't played GTA 5 since it came out in 2013 or whatever.
Jesus Christ, you're old.
I was gonna say I loved that game when it came out. Not for the humor, I just those games are so much fun.
I get that.
I don't know if there was like a non GTA game that came out with that same humor. I'd also probably be like, you know, this is trash, and I can't spend more than 5 minutes in the world.
I think it's GTA 5 that has probably my favorite piece of video game writing about it. Tom Bazell from The Guardian has a piece that's basically like, I was addicted to cocaine and Grand Theft Auto simultaneously, and I was like, I need to quit cold turkey, so I like sold my Xbox, moved to a foreign country where I didn't know a dealer, and he's like, a week later I had found a dealer, gotten coke, and was playing GTA again. And he's like, and they're like, the thing is like, he's like, you would just get like, and it's exquisite writing, but it was basically like I wanted to keep playing the game, so like it was like one That's addiction wild. Fueled the other, and it was just like, it's the most beautiful writing about someone just destroying his life. I
mean, I've really had the same experience with Red Dead and Sarsaparilla, so
oh yeah,
there was I had a whenever GTA
don't do drugs, kids.
Drink sarsaparilla. When I was, I guess it would have been middle school, whenever GTA 3 came out, you know, the big like revolution to that series, right? When it went 3D, that game was so mind boggling to me. But I didn't have the system to play it, but someone who lived in my neighborhood did.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't really care for them as a friend. But all I wanted to do was play that game. I would hang out with them. So I didn't do cocaine and play GTA.
Which, again, we do not endorse.
Well, you know, you can make your own decisions. But I think I did close, which was hang out with someone that I didn't want to, in order to play
GTA will make
GTA.
you do bad things.
Look, I totally understand that. And it's amazing. Like, I think there's definitely going to be people listening to this who weren't sort of playing games at that time. It's unbelievable thinking back about like what a sea change GTA 3 was at the time. And I had basically the same experience. Like, when that game was out, literally all I wanted to do was play GTA, and if I couldn't, watch someone else play GTA. And it wasn't a multiplayer game, but it didn't matter because it's
a party game.
Yeah, it's a party game. People would crowd around the screen in order to watch people play GTA, because you'd just go out in the city and find some weird thing to do, like maybe jump a thing off of a ramp, or like, you know, put in a cheat code and summon a helicopter. And like that, every time you figured out something like that to do, it became its own game, and you'd pass the controller around and people would just give it a try. That game was more of a party game than any Mario Party at the time. Like, it was incredible.
And then each of the sequels just got better and better. Vice City, San Andreas, great games.
Oh yeah. One of those games, I think someone invited me over to like watch play, which I know sounds stupid as hell, but like everyone was coming over to watch, and I remember
whatever. There's an entire industry now about people watching other people play video games.
Yeah. So, I was totally thinking about that. It's like it was proto Twitch, because it was like it was a game designed for like other people to watch you play it, pretty much.
Yeah, someone was trying to set me up with someone else watching the game, and I was completely clueless, because I was like, wait a second, like, wait, if you go over here, like, this is the route you should be taking. I was too busy. I was too into the game to recognize.
Yeah.
It's how most of high school went. Yeah. So you're playing with a horsey instead.
Yep, riding a horse. Which, in a way, I feel like I'm back to The Witcher 3 a little bit. The Witcher 3, a big part of my experience with that, because I kind of swore off fast travel with that game, was long distance horsey rides. And that's what I'm getting with this too. Yeah.
Long distance horsey rides.
I even named my Red Dead horse Roach. Laura, what about you? Bad transition, but here we are, lull in the conversation. Laura, what have you got for us?
So I just got a copy of Super Mario 3D All Stars, which is the limited time edition. I don't even know what to call it, but the little Switch bundle that's Mario 3D, and it's Sunshine and Galaxy. I haven't played any of them because I had an N64 only by like the loosest definition of have. My brother had one, and then he failed too many classes in college, and my parents drove up to his college and took his N64 away. And he had Mario Kart, and he had GoldenEye. And then my parents put that in the garage apartment, which he had to have a key for. And so they had the key. We had to ask for a key whenever we wanted to play. And the trick was we also weren't allowed to run the air conditioner. Because it was too... I could only run the air conditioner if I was practicing for my voice lessons. I could not run the air conditioner if I was... playing video games, and they knew because they could look at the bill, because the air conditioner was extremely expensive for the garage apartment. So it was like, how long will I play GoldenEye or Mario Kart with no air conditioning in Texas when it's 90 degrees outside? Like, that's how much I had an N64, which just gives you the context of why I have not played any of these Mario 3D games.
Yeah. That's fair.
It's fair, right? But
man, I think if I was in that same situation, you would have just found a dead Nate Heininger at some point. Just like for sure. Just
you passed out.
His leathery hand wrapped around the N64 controller. Desiccated.
There's no way.
Well, like any day it wasn't hot, like we would go and play N64 all day long. But like it was it was an effective control to keep their straight A student having straight A's and not failing because they couldn't stop playing. But anyway, I've playing a little bit of all three games now, because I was trying to decide which one. I mean, like, academic self says I should play them in order, see the evolution of 3D. But like, let's be real, I'm not going to play all three to completion now. So played a bit of Mario. Like, I think my current strategy is going to be, I'm going to be like playing through Sunshine, playing bits of 64, and when I get sick of Sunshine, I'll move on to Galaxy. I think that's my game plan. Because if you're unfamiliar with the series, like, the first one is the oldest, and it's very much like 2D platformer levels in 3D. And then the second one, Sunshine, it seems to be the whole thing is like you've got a jetpack and you are cleaning up graffiti and you're spraying water everywhere. That seems to be the whole thing. I will find out more. It's cute, though. Like, I really like Sunshine. It feels a little bit like Odyssey-ish, in that, like, everybody you meet is kind of weird and they're blaming you for problems that you didn't cause. Very Mario.
And people say that, like, that Sunshine is sort of the end of the line of that style of Mario games, and it didn't come back until Odyssey. So, like, that's that, like, approach to that started with Super Mario 64, that, like, it's like kind of sort of open world where there's a lot of potential objectives scattered around a large map.
Multiple things to do everywhere you go.
Yeah. And I like that approach, but I think actually I'm more of a stand for the more linear Mario levels. Like, give me a course 1-1, 1-2, 1-3, you know, with a direct line through them, and make those optional objectives be like little discoveries of like new entrances and exits of the level, or like secrets to unlock along the way. That's the style that I prefer. But like, yeah, anyway,
give me all of it.
Yeah, give me all of it. Well,
I love it all.
To me, the only thing I'm the camera control. This is a new gripe from someone who didn't play the game, and I'm like, oh, the camera control gets so much better as you progress through the games. Like, just the auto camera is in Sunshine. They're even like, hey, like, we'll point the camera where you need it, as opposed to the last game where we said that and lied.
There's things about the camera control, and like, yeah, no question, you're absolutely right. But like, if you remember the like N64 controller had like the C buttons, and those C buttons, C for camera, because like those were the buttons you used to control the camera, and it was not a stick. They hadn't figured out that analog was good for camera controls yet. So it's like, okay, hit the left button to nudge the camera like a quarter circle to the left. That sucks.
It does suck, but it's cute. The packaging for it, like, is super cute, because when you log in, they all have the years and the summary of the games,
nice.
like you're in a museum, and then you can go put it in music mode and just listen to the soundtracks, and you can mix all three together or listen to the albums. And I think the most charming thing about it is you can hit the little minus sign and bring up like full sets of all the controls, because of course they've been mapped, and so that you might not really know exactly where the mapping goes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's really well done. I got it on sale, and I never played any of them, so your mileage may vary, but like, this will be a great little thing to pop in the Switch. And like, talk about, I have 30 minutes and I don't need to play the next short game. I will be playing I have my pick.
Yeah.
I can go, to any of these universes.
Those games have obviously aged differently, but I love all of them. Like, really, but the 3D Marios, I've enjoyed all of them, for different degrees and for different reasons, but I'm excited for you to play Galaxy. I loved that game.
That playing an hour of each sampler pack start, when the orchestral soundtracks played on Galaxy, it was so good. This one's the modern one.
Yeah. Galaxy is
it was gorgeous.
Like real music. Yeah, no, that game is, I think that might be the first home console Mario game I ever actually owned, because like, I've talked about this on this show before. I didn't have any Nintendo systems apart from Game Boys until the Wii. And so, yeah, I think Mario Galaxy is the first actual like mainline console Mario game that I ever actually really played, and I absolutely adored it. It's a good one. You've got a good game, and Mario Galaxy 2 is even better, and it's a real
that's what I was gonna say.
That they did not great. Add that to the collection, but like, I'll bet you anything.
Yeah,
that, like,
it'll come
next year. Like, when they're shoving this thing in the like Nintendo vault, and like next year they're gonna come out with like, here's the same package again, but now it has Galaxy 2 in it too, or something like that, and people will buy it again for $60.
Yeah. I got mine for $35, so I was like,
there you go.
Yeah,
I've been playing Odyssey again lately.
Oh, so good.
It's been a good one to play with our 3.5-year-old, who she loves watching it and trying to play. We're getting there. But I never got to the 500 moons, which is sort of the like next objective after you beat the game.
After you get past the moon, yeah.
Yeah, and they do something really, really smart, which is, after you beat the game, when you go back to the worlds, there are these moon blocks that you can choose to activate or not. And if you do, it shows you on the map where every single moon is.
Oh, that's good.
Now you have to still, most of them are like little baby puzzles. Although every once in a while it's just like, oh shit, there was a moon just right there and I just didn't see it. But
yeah,
it's not
There's
as
one
simple
on this roof.
Yeah, it's not as simple as just like run around a place and collect all the moons. You still have to figure it out. But it does, because you have like nothing incentivizing you to play the game anymore besides like the desire to just find more moons. Makes it way less. It makes it way more casual. You're like, oh, I pull up this map. I see there are 3 moons over in this area. I'm going to go find those 3 moons. I don't have to like, it's been a while since I've played. I don't remember where I've been. I don't remember what moons I found. So this lets me like play in a very targeted way, which is really, really nice. It's, I would not have thought that would be as successful as it is. I would have been like, no, don't tell me where all the moons are, but it's still just obscured enough. Because it's just a little X on the map. It's like there's a moon here.
In the
Nothing
area.
else.
Yeah.
That's good. That's very good. Because being able to like think like, okay, look, like you could look up a list of all the moons, which I would probably have to do at that point. But then like, who knows which one you've already got? So.
That's what, and they all have silly little names, and like I have no idea which ones I've gotten. So it's really smart, and it's made the game like really fun to go back and be like, oh, how did I miss these moons? Or like, what are the, and solving these little moon puzzles. So yeah, it's been fun.
I have been jonesing to play Odyssey, not just because I've bought these 3D ones and it makes me like want to keep playing just Mario games all the time, but also because Ring Fit has a music mode they added 6 months ago, 3 months ago, I don't remember. But it basically there's like, it's like a DDR with your Pilates ring where you're like squeezing or pulling the ring and you're shooting little things and squatting. It's basically like a faux workout dance mode, but 99% of the tracks are just like Breath of the Wild medley, Super Mario Odyssey medley,
nice.
Or like you can dance to like the Odyssey song they do in Tokyo, in the city. Oh, it's so good. Like you feel very like you're just squeezing and moving your Pilates ring. But I was like, I want to get like super plus score on Mario Odyssey remix on hardest. Like I didn't know that was a thing I wanted to do, but I definitely do. So just listening to that soundtrack and like dancing around with it, when I, for various reasons didn't quite get like a full length workout in, just makes me want to play the game.
Well, yeah. Nate, you mentioned playing with your kid, and I actually just bought a new Mario game myself, and it's for exactly that reason. I've Wednesday, my kid is starting to be old enough to be interested in video games, but like I actually don't play a lot of games in front of her because of the way our timeline tends to work out. Like I play mostly video games after she goes to bed, but I thought to myself, like, I would like to maybe see if she'd like to, join me in some games. And the re-release or Switch port of Super Mario 3D World from the Wii U just came out, or not just came out. It's been out a little while now, but like, I was thinking to myself, like that has 2 things going for it. One is that it's designed for multiplayer, but like that extra player really doesn't have to be any good. So you can like pick them up and move them around yourself if you need to. Or they can die a zillion times and it's fine as long as one of you makes it to the end of the level, you both win. And so like she could just hold a controller, and I think that'll work out. And then the other aspect is Cat Mario. My child is so into cats. It's unbelievable. And so I think the idea that there's a game where you can turn that little man into a cat, or maybe even princess into a cat, like, I think that's going to blow her mind. So I'm going to report back once I have some time to play that with her.
You know what else you should do?
What?
Get a cat.
No.
That child would kill the cat with kindness. That child would love the cat to death.
No,
do not get a cat.
I would kill the cat. I'm very allergic to cats. It's the tragedy of our life. I'm allergic, Excuses. And so we just can't really get a cat. I've still thought about it. There's some breeds that are apparently more hypoallergenic than others. And when I was a kid, I had a cat. And I think due to long exposure, I didn't have major issues with that cat, only with other people's cats. So maybe someday. I don't want to completely rule it out, but I don't have room in my life for a cat right now. No matter how much my daughter loves cats, cats are just sort of like these fictional characters that she likes right now in her world. She's only ever seen real cats a couple of times. And so she just likes things that are shaped like cats.
3D Mario is a great idea, or 3D Mario World is a great idea, and I need to get it as well. I played it, when it came out, but I've been wanting to go back to it. And the Bowser's Fury extra seems pretty cool.
Yeah, that seems neat.
Yeah, the other thing I've been playing off and on since I got it fairly recently is Luigi's Mansion. So I guess Nintendo has my wallet, but I've been like, I guess I just scour like when they go on sale on eBay. I'm like, bam,
Yeah.
like 5-year-old Mario games seems to be what I get to play. No surprise to anyone that is a super goofy good time, but it makes you feel like a genius sometimes because there's little hard puzzles, but it's also very easy because it is for children. So
That's the crutch of every Mario game.
I picked that one up with the same idea in mind. I was like, I wonder if Wednesday will like watching me play through Luigi's Mansion, and she had absolutely no interest in it at all. I think just not colorful and dynamic enough. I have higher hopes for 3D World.
Too spooky for her.
maybe when she's older and all the genetic love of the Haunted Mansion seeps into her veins.
Yeah, I think it was more like a high hope that she would like that, and we'll see someday, maybe. Well, this was fun. Thank you, guys. I had a lot of fun talking about the things that we've been playing when we're not playing short games. And, that's the kind of thing we talk about on our Discord, by the way. So if you, listener, would like to chat with us about games short or long, you can find us on the internet at www.thepatreon.net. No, www.theshortgame.net, where you'll find our contact form, a link to our Patreon. All of our patrons at even just $1 a month get access to our Discord, which is where we chat about the things we're playing, plan the show, all of those sorts of things. And you can also find our show on Twitter at _shortgame. And you can find me on Twitter also at Raygan K. That's RAYGANK. Laura, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Laura J. Nash.
And Nate, where can people find you?
On Twitter at NateSTL.
And listener, thank you for joining us on this episode of The Short Game.